Hi my dears, hi. I wanted to do this video for you, the patrons, first. If you follow on anything that I do other than just this, you probably have seen some of the stencils that I've been doing, some of the stenciled soaps like this guy and this, a little bit different, and some of these guys. So one of the things I wanted to share with you is the overall process and what I have in mind, and why I want to share it with you is because I want to give you first crack at it all, if that makes sense, because you're special to me, and you deserve to have an advantage because you do follow and like that. So anyway, so these are some of my store-bought ones, and I wanted to explain to you where I'm going with all this and why I want to offer you this thing that I'm working on. Okay, so these are the stencils. There's some soap on them. This is all soap. Okay, so this was in a bigger sheet which I cut out, and these are Hobby Lobby stencils. Yeah, I think they're Hobby Lobby. Yeah. And I think I paid $2 for these, which is fine, you know, and this is like the flexibility of them. This is what I'm looking at, and I'm printing on as well. But see, if you can see, this is, although interesting mildly, much too big for a soap bar. So here's the soap bar. Yeah, that's not going to do too much. I don't think I've ever used this one because it is too big. Now this one is a little bit more reasonable, but then all you end up having is just this sort of generic flower on it, which to me is not very interesting. And then these are a little bit even harder. Again, almost too big for a bar of soap. Now my bars of soap are a little bit smaller, but mostly 3 inches wide is about as wide of a bar of soap as anybody's going to have, generally speaking. I mean, it could be a bit bigger, but still, even in a bit bigger and a bit taller, some people like them a little bit taller. This is my perfect size hand. These were a failed soap dough situation, and why they failed I don't remember, but it was like a year ago, and I've had curing these bars for about a year, didn't know what to do with them. And then I realized, oh, I have all these bars of soap that I use for my house, and I can stencil on them. So this one's a gradation, and which is pretty cool. And so anyway, so I thought if I can create a stencil for my size bar of soap, that then it'll fit on other people's, because then you can always add more to it, and eventually they'll get more complicated and all this stuff. But for right now, all I'm doing is trying to work out a very particular custom stencil series of stencils for soap bars only. And here's the other reason why I wanted to do this, because do you know I make very complex soaps, which is all well and good, and I wanted to have what Jeff's recently taught me, which I've learned from another perspective, but he used the term force multiplier, which is not necessarily to create unique things, but not necessarily to create more work for yourself. So these don't take me very long to make, and then here's the other issue, that then I can use any fragrance oil. Now I still have to test it out to see if the soap dough, once the bar is cured with a fragrance oil that discolors, if it'll leach into the white. For example, a brown bar, because there's tons of fragrance oils that discolor to brown, and if I put white soap dough inside of it, or I don't fragrance a portion of the batter, it will leach and then bleed into the rest of the soap, which isn't very pretty, and then it looks all muddied. So in order to be adaptable, I want to see, that's an experiment yet to happen, but I just made some that discolor the other day, and I'm going to cut those today and see how that works, but they're not going to be cured fully for another 6 to 8 weeks. So anyway, but in the meantime, I know we can do it on white bars, we can do it on any color, that in any fragrance oil that doesn't leach, you can put a stencil on without having fear of the color changing. And not only that, but then I just had the most pleasant experience making soap the other day because, you know, I make these ombre gradations and these stripes and the tops, and I created a whole host of stress for myself that I don't need to do very much anymore. I mean, I can continue to do those soaps, but occasionally I could have a respite and just pour a batch of soap, a well-made batch of soap, handmade soap, right? And then I can sit and do these. And the other thing about curing these is when you work on these that are fully cured, if you make a mistake, you can just wipe it off. No problem. It's just soap. You just take a washcloth and wipe it off, or a paper towel, and then start over. So I want to show you the problem I'm having with finding stencils. Like, you know, all these, here's Hobby Lobby. These are too close. You have no room. They're too close to each other. So let's put those away because we don't need those anymore. Those are all my examples, my education, my learning curve. Okay, and so this is my stencil, which I'm very pleased with. So I'm working out the particulars about all these, but I wanted to show you. So you can get more than one on here for a page, right? And still be safe. This one has to be worked out a bit, so these guys probably should be closer. I just printed this today, by the way. But this guy is perfectly fine. So that is a design issue, some of the things I'm working out. This one is perfect. So we're going to do that today. So one of the things I do is I load my extruder, and the reason I load my extruder with something is because then I don't have to wrap and unwrap, and I can just take a little bit out at a time. And so what you want to do is hold it down, so you can tack this down, and you start on one of the edges and pull in. You don't want to push this way because it'll get underneath, right? And you just pull in. And you essentially just tack it down a bit. And for those that are cake makers, it's just a little bit different than frosting. Just a little bit, not very much actually. And of course you need some like lump-free soap dough. So there, okay, so we'll leave that for right now for a second. And this is my favorite guy right here, my favorite. You could use a credit card too if you don't happen to have a palette knife, but this one right here, he's a little bit bendy. But I still need to put my finger on it, and then you just want to pull it down. Now see, I took too much off there, but I can just plaster it back in there. No big deal. And it just takes a little bit of finesse, but it's not really that complicated. Which made me really happy because, you know, so then, there. Okay, so let's lift it up and see what we did. There you go. That makes me seriously happy. First of all, ooh, I just put a fingerprint on it. Okay, and so then I let them dry, and these basically will dry in a day, the curing of them. But let's say hypothetically that you want to make a whole batch of these, then let's say halfway through the cure. So if you let yours cure for 8 weeks, which I like the bar cured for a full 8 weeks, then halfway through that 4 weeks, they're about hard. Now they haven't evaporated all the water out of them, but they're hard enough, bars are hard enough to use, and that you won't mar them. And what I mean by marring is, you know, when they're softer and you just ding it like that, and then you get a little ding in there and they're like, ah, crike. All right, so then you can sit, for me, I'll just own it, I can sit for, you know, an hour and just stencil, creatively stencil. Well, what do I want? I want my whole let's say I fragranced this with, let's see, what did I do? Butterfly Garden, right? So if I wanted to stick to the theme of the fragrance oil, I could I could stencil the whole thing with butterflies. They don't have to be, every single one has to be the perfect butterfly, like one butterfly here in the corner, one here in that corner, whatever. It could be like, I could just be creative and put butterflies all over my bars and just call it Butterfly Garden, and there you are, done deal. And I think, let's see, well, you saw how fast I did this, so I don't know. Again, force multiplier, I can just sit here without talking and show you how to do these and how long it would take, but I can crank these out pretty, something like this is a little bit more detailed and you have to like pay attention, but crank them out pretty good. And I think that's pretty crazy cool. Now, it is soap and it doesn't go all the way through the bar, but if you can see, this is a little thicker. It's going to last a bit. It's going to last longer than mica, I can tell you that much, because mica does not impregnate into the soap, and then the minute you put it under the water, it just disappears and all that work just went away, where this is going to last a bit. So anyway, I wanted to show you this, and I want to give you a discount for the stencils when I start to do the stencils and offer them. I'm still working that particular part out, but that's the whole goal, is to make things easier. So let's do this bat and see. So I'm going to put 2 bats on here, which is going to be tricky. So let's see. And that's the whole thing. Put that on there and put that on there. Okay, let's see how this works. Anyway, so that's the whole goal, and I wanted to be able to make these easier for people to get. I mean, personally, I would be tickled if somebody did this for me, because I'm telling you, it's a lot of work trying to figure all this out, and then offer them that in a way that is reasonable for everybody, not just myself. See, now that one's a lot thicker, and I didn't even smooth it out. I just put as much as I wanted. Now this is only, let me think. This is a very thin, I don't remember the number, but this is a very thin. Okay, so then you could see how much soap dough is on there. It actually looks thicker than even this, which is pretty cool. So let's see if I can do this without munging that up. I don't know. See, usually I'll just let it cure a bit and dry, but I want to try it. Maybe the little guy right here. There, so I don't want to mung that part. Oop, see, I just moved it. Yeah, I just moved it. Okay, that's a good example though. So there. Because it is soap, I have to let that dry a bit. Okay, let's try it. And then, okay, see it, and it's kind of moving that around. Okay, there. I just want it smooth. Okay, there you go. Now, and then these little guys, like say, like his ears are a little bit wonky. If I wanted to be particular about it, I could go in and do this, and clean that up a bit, but I think they're fine. And it came out really nice, and I don't have to do anything else. And no, I didn't even use water for it. You don't need to, because there's enough water in the soap dough. When you put it on here, it sticks. And for example, let's say it lifts off a bit. So then all you have to do is put a little water and then push it back down. So I'm pleased with that. So I hope this helps you. And see, this guy added a little thing on top of soap dough, and that I did the other day, and it's pretty solid on there. So, and now I could actually put more bats on here if I wanted to. Oh yeah, I could. I'll put more bats on here. So, and then they could be, it's just so many ideas. It's just such a creative opening to me. Like, and the weirdest part is that I stenciled soaps in my first book. I've been stenciling soaps since 2016. And I'm like, you know what? And here's the part that I realized most recently. The reason I didn't pursue this stencil thing is because, number one, there's no stencils made for soap. So that's part of it. And so the stencils that are out there, the smaller ones are so expensive that, and they're not thought through for soap. And I'll show you an example. Okay, so I just showed you how to do these, right? So these images all here had to be altered so that when they're small, that the details will still come out and that the impression of them is still gonna, because it's a whole nother thing to create in a stencil, in a silhouette. So like this, you want to be able to recognize what you're looking at right away. So this right here had little holes cut out of it and the feet were much more detailed, and I had to clean it up, and so that, because you can't have a hole here. So anyway, well, you can, but that's a whole nother process, a complicated process. But anyway, but all these stencils that are on the market right now, as far as I can find, even the unique ones, are not geared towards putting on soap. And so I thought, what a better person than me to figure out how to do this, so that when you pick this up, first of all, here, let me show you. So when you pick this up, you can hold this in your hand, right? Let me show you this here. And you can put it down, so there's enough space on here so that you can smear the soap away here, like this, right? So you can hold it down and then smear the soap. So when you have something like this, it starts to get even trickier, because, okay, I'm going to put the soap through here, but then it's going to get into these two because there's just not enough space around it. So nobody's thought that out before in like how it would work with soap. And the other thing too is, like, I hear a lot of people don't want to get into or start soap dough because they're, sort of intimidated by all the intricate things. And I thought, how could we make this simpler, not more complicated? And that's how this all came about. And, just to, I don't know, zhuzh it up a bit, that's what someone told me the other day. I thought that was so funny. But just to, make it a little bit more special that isn't super time intensive. So anyway, I hope this helped. And then, the other thing too I wanted to share with you is, if you get a toothbrush, of course, only used for soap, which I have plenty of, and most people do, right? And you just take this and run it underwater and use your toothbrush to clean right up. And then they're reusable. That's the other thing that's important, that they're reusable, and you'll get a lot of life out of these. Even when these things, like the little edges, that's the other issue too, is you don't want too many of these little edges on here, but you want enough detail that, like this, like the cow horns, those will eventually like break down, but not right away. And as long as you pull this way, so that would be like this, pulled this way instead of pushing this way against that little detail right there, they'll last a really long time. So there's a lot of thought that goes into here, like, we can't have too many details, otherwise this will break down or that'll break down. But I just really like the cow, so I thought the detail in it is totally worth it. But anyway, I hope this really helps, and I wanted you guys to be the first. I don't have any stencils yet to offer. This is going out Sunday. So, but the minute I have stencils to offer, what I'm going to do is offer you all a discount so that you can try them and see and tell me what you think of them. And yeah, because I guess here's what I want to say. You pay attention to the details, and that's really important to me. And thank you for being here. Okay, have a great day.